The 22D Operations Group is the operational flying component of the United States Air Force 22D Air Refueling Wing. It is stationed at McConnell Air Force Base, Kansas, and is assigned to the Air Mobility Command 18th Air Force. The 22D OG primary mission is to provide global reach by conducting air refueling and airlift where and when needed. The group directs the 22D Refueling Wing's KC-135R Stratotanker refueling and airlift operations in support of worldwide AMC-U.S. Transportation Command, Air Force, Department of Defense, and Allied operations anywhere in the world. The group's World War II predecessor unit, the 22D Bombardment Group, was one of the first U.S. Army Air Force units to be deployed into the Pacific Theater after Pearl Harbor with the Martin B-26 Marauder medium bomber. It operated primarily in the Southwest Pacific Theater as a B-25 missile unit assigned to 5th Air Force. It was awarded 2 United States Distinguished Unit citations and the Philippine Presidential Unit citation for its combat service in China, Netherlands, East Indies, New Guinea, the Bismarck Archipelago, the Western Pacific, Leyte and Luzon. During the early years of the Cold War, the group moved temporarily to Okinawa in July 1950 and attached to Far East Air Forces for duty in the Korean War. It began combat immediately, and until October 1950 attacked marshalling yards, bridges, highways, airfields, and industries and supported UN ground forces in Korea. Overview. The 22D Operations Group uses 5 squadrons and their assigned personnel to execute the wing's challenging and diverse refueling and airlift missions. For CONUS refueling support to unit deployments in support of theater operations worldwide. 344th Air Refueling Squadron, 349th Air Refueling Squadron, 350th Air Refueling Squadron, 384th Air Refueling Squadron. With these air refueling squadrons, the group supervises operations in support of strategic force projection and mobility, special operations, tactical air operations, and humanitarian assistance efforts. 22D Operations Support Squadron. The squadron provides airfield management, air traffic control, intelligence, combat crew communications, base weather service, mission scheduling, planning, and combat tactics. History. For additional history and lineage, see 22D Air Refueling Wing Origins. The authorizing document was a letter issued by the Adjutant General's Office titled The Constitution and Activation of Certain Air Corps Units. Lieutenant Colonel Ross F. Cole was the first group commander. The first elements of the group included 2D Bombardment Squadron, commanded by Captain Leslie P. Halcomb; 19th Bombardment Squadron, commanded by First Lieutenant Herman E. Hurst; 33D Bombardment Squadron, commanded by First Lieutenant Theodore E. Graf; 18th Reconnaissance Squadron, commanded by Captain Jon P. Oyl. The group was located at Langley Field, Virginia. Its first aircraft were a few B-18 Bolo bombers, with a few B-25 missile bombers allocated to the 18th Reconnaissance Squadron. In 1941 the group transitioned to B-26 Marauder bombers, a fast bomber with very specialized aerodynamic capabilities. These capabilities included short, stubby wings, which led the plane to be known as the Flying Prostitute. However, its flying characteristics led to many crashes, which also led to the plane being known as the Flying Coffin. Throughout 1941 the 22D BG trained extensively, increasing in intensity in November 1941. It was combat ready that 16 hours after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor on the 7th of December 1941. The 44 planes of the 22D BG headed for the West Coast and on to the Southwest Pacific. World War II media related to United States Army Air Force's 22D Bombardment Group at Wikimedia Commons. The group prepared itself to Muroc Army Air Field in the Mojave Desert in California from the 15th of December 1941 and began patrols of the West Coast. A ground crew team left San Francisco on the 31st of January 1942 for Brisbane, Queensland in Australia. On the 6th of February 1942, the group's aircraft were shipped to Hickam Field. They immediately commenced patrol duties. On the 22nd of March 1942, the first flight of the 22D Air Echelon arrived at Ambley Field, near Brisbane in Australia, and became the first fully armed Air Force group to fly the Pacific en masse. They were warmly welcomed by the Australians, who were concerned that, while the Japanese were threatening Australia, its troops were fighting the Germans in the Middle East. Shortly after arriving in Australia, the group moved further north to the Townsville area. 2D Bombardment Squadron was based at Reed River, about 40 miles south of Townsville. 408th Bombardment Squadron was also based at Reed River. 19th Bombardment Squadron was based at Garbutt Field. 33D Bombardment Squadron was based at Antle Plains, 20 miles south of Townsville. On the 5th of April 1942, the 22D BG took off from Garbutt Field for its first combat action, an attack on Rabaul in New Britain. In this attack on the Japanese naval base, the group sunk a transport ship but lost a plane and the life of a Sergeant Bourne. Meanwhile, 4 B-26 Marauders, including 2 from the 18th Reconnaissance Squadron, left behind at Hawaii, saw action on the 4th of June 1942 as part of the air attack in the Battle of Midway, and were the first Army planes to make a torpedo attack. These planes, piloted by First Lieutenant Herbert C. Mays and First Lieutenant James P. Murray, attacked the Japanese naval invasion force, focusing torpedo and strafing action on its aircraft carrier. Lt. Murray's plane, badly damaged with over 500 bullet and shrapnel holes, crash-landed. In 1944, the group converted from medium, twin-engined B-25 Mitchell and B-26 Marauder bombers to heavy four-engined B-24 Liberator bombers. Following its conversion to B-24 Liberators, on the 11th of February 1944, the 22D Bomb Group was redesignated 22D Bomb Group Heavy. The group was tasked to bomb Japanese airfields, shipping, and oil installations in Borneo, Ceram, and Halmahera. It began raiding the southern Philippines in September 1944 to neutralize Japanese bases in preparation for the invasion of Leyte. From December 1944 to August 1945, the group struck airfields and installations on Luzon, supported Australian ground forces on Borneo, and bombed railways and industries in Formosa and China. Near the end of the war, the 22BG moved to Okinawa in August 1945 and flew some armed reconnaissance missions over southern Japan. Post-war era, the 22BG's staff and aircraft were released and the group moved to Clark Air Base in the Philippines in November 1945. In April 1946, the 22BG returned to Okinawa as the 22D Bombardment Group, and was remanned and assigned B-29 Superfortress bombers, operating from Kadena Air Base. In May 1948, moved to the United States to serve Strategic Air Command. Korean War. The 22D was one of 2 SAC groups selected to deploy to the Pacific after SAC was directed to reinforce the 19th Bombardment Wing of Far East Air Forces. The 22D was selected because removal removing it from SAC control would have a minimum impact on the SAC mission because its planes were not yet equipped for the delivery of nuclear weapons and would not impact SAC's task of building a credible deterrent to the Soviet Union. The 22D bombardment group deployed its B-29 superfortresses in early July 1950 to Kadena Rab, Okinawa, where it came under control of FEAF Bomber Command. On the 13th of July, the group flew its first mission against the marshalling yards and oil refinery at Wonsan, North Korea. By the 21st of October, it had amassed 57 missions against the enemy, attacking bridges, factories, industrial targets, troop concentrations, airfields, marshalling yards, communications centers, and port facilities. During 4 months of combat, the group flew 335 sorties with only 14 aborts and dropped over 6,500 tons of bombs. When the 22D returned to March AFB as late October or early November 1950, 335 sorties had been flown. One plane, 44-62279, was reported lost during operations from Okinawa. Combat components of the group were the 2nd, 19th and 33rd Bombardment Squadrons. It became a records unit in February 1951, and activated on the 16th of June 1952. Modern era. After activation in 1991, commenced air refueling missions. Using KC-10 aircraft, the group airlifted humanitarian equipment and supplies to Somalia. 1992 to 1994. Deployed group aircrews and aircraft on other contingency operations in many parts of the world, including Haiti in 1994 and Serbia in 1999. The group also refueled aircraft enforcing no-fly zones over Bosnia-Herzegovina in the mid-1990s and over northern and southern Iraq between 1992 and 2002. After terrorist attacks in the United States in September 2001, deployed crews and aircraft for operations in Afghanistan. Redesignated, and activated on the 16th of June 1952. Redesignated 22D Air Refueling Group Heavy on the 31st of July 1985. Redesignated 22D Operations Group on the 29th of August 1991. Activated on the 1st of September 1991. Assignments Components. World War II Korean War II Bombardment Squadron, the 1st of February 1940 to 16 June 1952. 18th Reconnaissance Squadron, attached the 1st of February 1940 to 24 April 1942, assigned the 24th of April 1942 to 29 April 1946. 19th Bombardment Squadron, the 1st of February 1940 to 16 June 1952. 22D Air Refueling Squadron, the 16th of June 1950 to 16 June 1952. 33D Bombardment Squadron, the 1st of February 1940 to 16 June 1952. Modern Era 6th Air Refueling Squadron, the 1st of September 1991 to 1 January 1994. 9th Air Refueling Squadron, the 1st of September 1991 to 1 January 1994. 344th Air Refueling Squadron, the 29th of April 1994 present. 349th Air Refueling Squadron, the 1st of January 1994 present. 350th Air Refueling Squadron, the 1st of July 1994 present. 384th Air Refueling Squadron, the 1st of January 1994 present. 459th Airlift Squadron, the 1st of April, the 1st of October 1993.